In this video we're going to continue to factorise trinomials. We're actually going to take a step back from the non-unitary, so we've gone back to unitary trinomials here. So all of these are 1x squared. And the reason we've gone back to this is so we can look at negatives. So the purpose in this is going to be to get a bit more confident at working with our negatives and then introduce a number at the front there. The good news is our technique is exactly the same. So I'm going to take x squared plus 3x minus 28 and I'm going to draw a grid for it. So I know my x squared will go up that top left and my negative 28 will go down the bottom right. I know these two boxes here need to add up to give me positive 3, and they will have a product, they will multiply together to give me negative 28x. So I'm going to have some x's in this first one, some x's in this second one. And what I'm going to do, I know they're going to have to multiply to give me negative 28x squared. I'm just going to start listing the factors of 28. So 1 and 28, 2 and 14, 3 doesn't go, but I have 4 sevens, 5 and 6 aren't factors. Now, I'm going to need to think a little bit more carefully. I'm going to have a positive and a negative in here because I'm going to need a positive and a negative to multiply to give me negative 28. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a little negative symbol in to begin with. Now I need to figure out what the coefficients are. This is what these factors are for. These are going to add together to give me a positive. So it means my positive value here is going to be greater than my negative. So positive 28 minus 1 would give me 27. No good. Positive 14, negative 2, that would give me 12, positive 12. Positive 7, negative 4 will give me the positive 3. Remember, we can think of this a bit like this. We have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 positives, 1, 2, 3, 4 negatives, and combining them, these 0 pairs would cancel out, leaving me with 1, 2, 3 positives. So I'm going to have positive 7, negative 4. Now, my negative 4 could be up here, and my positive 7 could be down there. Doesn't matter, I'll just change the order those brackets are in. My technique is the same as before. I'm going to pull out a common factor. So x squared and 7x, I've got an x in common, and I can use that to fill in the top. X times x will give me x squared. X times 7 will give me 7x's. Down the bottom here, I've got some negatives. Both of these are negatives, so we need to take care. X times negative 4 will give me negative 4x. Quick check with the last box. A negative times a positive gives me a negative. 4 sevens are 28. So I can read my brackets off of the side of my grid. X plus 7. Down the other side, x, I've got a negative 4. So I've got x minus 4 in my brackets. Next one. Looks almost identical to the one above, except I've got this negative 3x. So again, I set up my grid. I know I've got an x squared. I know I've got a negative 28. And I know these two boxes will need to combine, add together to give me negative 3. I've deliberately kept this question almost identical to this question for a very deliberate reason. The only thing that's changed is the positive 3 is now a negative 3. I'm going to be dealing with factors in negative 28x squared, so this list here. I'm still going to need x's in those highlighted boxes. Because I'm dealing with negative 28, one of them will need to be positive and one of them will need to be negative. The only thing that really changes is which number is going to be negative. Here, I want to end up with negative 3x, so it means I'm going to need more negatives than I have positives. So negative 28 and positive 1 will give me negative 27. Negative 4 and positive 2 will give me negative 12. Negative 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and positive 4. If I cancel out those 0 pairs, I am left with 3 negatives. So I'm going to have negative 7, positive 4. I'll go along the side here, dealing with just this positive line first before I need to mess about with negatives. They've got an x in common. X times x will give me x squared. X times 4 will give me the 4 lots of x. Here, I've got negative 7x, so I'll need a negative 7 times my x. Let's check this last box. A negative times a positive gives me a negative. 7 fours are 28. So, this means my factors this time are x positive 4, x plus 4. Down the other side, x negative 7, so x minus 7. So almost identical to the solution above, but my negatives are in a different place. Now, I'm sure some of you will have spotted that I can actually jump from picking these two numbers straight to my brackets. So positive 7, negative 4 have ended up in the brackets here. Negative 7, positive 4 have ended in the brackets here. However, I want you to be using these grids. These grids are going to be super useful when we move on to things that are trickier than these. So really the purpose of the lesson is twofold. One, can we factorise our trinomials? And two, can we use these grids when negatives are involved? Right, next one. So I've got a positive 4x and I've got a negative 21. Still got 1x squared at the front. So these are still unitary. So I've got my positive x squared, my negative 21. I know these two boxes here are going to have some x's in them. And I know they'll need to combine to give me positive 4. So I need to consider the factors of negative 21x squared. Because it's negative 21, it means one of them will be negative and one of them will be positive. Doesn't matter where I put my negative. I might put my negative up here just to show you that you don't always need to put the positive there. So I'm just going to put negative, and then this one will be positive. Because I want this to combine to give me positive 4x, it means I want to have more positives than I do negatives. So I start listing my factors of 21. That's it. I want to have more positives than negatives. So positive 20, negative 1 gives me positive 20. Positive 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Negative 3. Cancelling out the 0 pair leaves me with positive 4. So it means positive 7, negative 3. Now I can work with these lines any way I want. Just to get me started, I'm going to work with this just because it's all positive. So the x squared and the 7x, they have got a x times x will give me x squared. X times 7 will give me 7x. Up and down the way, I can see both of these have got a negative involved. Both of them are in the 3 times table. But let's just check. X times negative 3, there we go. That will give me this negative 3x. And a check, just a quick visual check here. A negative times a positive gives me a negative. 7 3s, 21. So it means this third trinomial will factorise to x minus 3, x plus 7. Right, last one. I've got an x squared, I've got a negative 4x, I've got a negative 32. So again, I set up a grid, x squared, negative 32. These two boxes will combine to give me negative 4x. So we'll have some x's in them. They're going to multiply together to give me negative 32x squared. These two will multiply to give me the same product as those two, the same multiplication answer. Listing down my factors of 32. So I do that, keep an eye out for which factor pair you think it will be. 3 no, 4 and 8, 5 no, 6 no, 7 no, 8's there. One of these will need to be negative. I'll put my negative back down here because I need a negative times a positive to give me this negative 32. Then I'm going to need to add up, I'm going to need to combine to give me negative 4. So it means I'm going to have more negatives than positives. So one of these numbers will be negative. Negative 32 and positive 1 will give me negative 31. Negative 16, positive 2 will give me negative 14. Negative 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Positive 4. These 0 pairs cancel out. To give me 1, 2, 3, 4 negatives is required. So negative 8, positive 4. I'm going to look at this line here, just because that's all positive. An x times an x, and my x times 4. X times negative 8 will give me negative 8x. And a quick check, a negative times a positive is a negative. 8 4s are indeed 32. So this last guy factorises to give me x plus 4. And my second factor, I've got an 8. I've got an x and a negative 8. So x minus 8. So exactly the same technique as we practiced last time. We haven't got any what we call leading coefficients. We've only got unitary trinomials, 1x squared, 1x squared, 1x squared, 1x squared. So that makes things a little bit easier. But what makes it messier is all the negatives. But hopefully you've sort of picked up on the advice I've given you. Fill in your grid. If this is negative, you're going to need a positive and a negative in here. And then use this to help you pick your factors. And use the idea of, well, this is positive, so I need more positives. This is negative, so I need more negatives. There's the exercise for you today. A sequence all ending in negative 24. A sequence all ending in negative 40. And if you get through those, you can either attempt to generate two sequences, so just trying to replicate what's happening here, because there's a pattern involved, or if you fancy, there are further questions there with some that have got, they're non-unitary, they've got numbers in front. You don't need to worry too much about those, because we will deal with those in a future lesson.